So welcome back to the channel, or welcome if you are new. My name is Brandy. I am the host of the Be Real Babe show, a spinoff of the Be Real Babe podcast. And today, you guys, it is Wednesday as you're watching this. So that means it is time for me to jump online and find something to bring you that is considered internet insanity. And today, you guys, I think I've got it for you. In fact, I have not stopped looking into this over the last couple of days to the point where I feel like I am not equipped, but I feel like if I don't stop, I'll never stop diving down into this deep rabbit hole of Piper Rockelle, but not really her mother, and the whole Netflix series that just came out recently. I would like to go over that with you guys and some articles that I found to support that, and just my thoughts in general, because I did kind of touch on this in the very first episode I did of Internet Insanity here on YouTube, specifically, exclusively. But I wasn't quite ready to talk about it because I just wasn't sure what I was reading, and I'd found some stuff on Reddit, and I had some thoughts, and then I watched the Netflix documentary, and then my spouse watched the Netflix documentary, like docuseries, and he feels super uncomfortable and hated everything about it. So I knew for sure. I thought, okay, that's it. I have to talk about this. So if you are interested in hearing about that, stick around and we'll jump right in. Okay, babes, as mentioned, I don't want to specifically talk about Piper herself because she is underage, in my opinion. She's 17. I'm not sure at the time if she's 18 yet, but she is 17 at the time that I'm reading these articles, and she's underage, and I don't really want to bring the focus to her because as much as obviously she's important to the story, that's not where the problem lies, and I don't believe that she has a choice in a lot of, which maybe she does, but she doesn't have a choice in what's going on with her mom right now, obviously, and this is all alleged. But I just feel for her, and because predominantly on the show I have talked about children being exploited and what's the line, and this is definitely one of those lines that I think perhaps has been crossed just from the outside looking in. And this isn't just from the Netflix documentary, you guys, or the docuseries that came out, which, they're claiming is incorrect, which is crazy because there's an actual lawsuit with a settlement. But anyways, maybe she's just saying some of the stuff isn't true, but some of it is because they won in court. Spoiler alert. But it's just going back to my constant theme of like, what is actually exploiting kids and what's informed consent? We see a lot of stuff, and we've talked about this before, like the Ruby Frankie situation, 8 passengers. We've seen a plenty on this show alone, just in the couple months that I've done this series, of the different ways that kids can be exploited online. And one of the ways I get really torn up about is situations like this, where they're not necessarily posting explicit content, but we know that the audience is viewing it as such. So whether that's just an innocent bikini picture, or maybe just a shirt with a crop top, or, in a certain position that's not meant to be taken sexual, it definitely is sexualized. And although it's really unfortunate we live in a world like that, and some people's argument is like, oh, I can't believe it, you think about them that way, that's on a you thing. And it's like, no, I just read the statistics, and I see how much is out there, and I look and you see things, girls like this that blow up on TikTok, and they're 13, 14 years old, and hundreds of thousands of them are either bot accounts or they're middle-aged men or something like that, which is just very strange. That's not the demographic, right? So then you have to be wondering, what are they following her for? Again, could be paid bots, could be, but if they're real people, like, you got to question those things. And as we get deeper into this, we'll talk a little bit more about the other websites that are out there that are obviously not OnlyFans, because it has to be 18 plus, but, borderlining that. And are these children being groomed and just ushered into this pipeline of online creators right into OnlyFans? And I'm not necessarily saying that's a good or bad thing. It's up to you what you do in your personal life. You choose what you want. I would be a nervous wreck. I'm very awkward, and I trip over the air. So obviously things like OnlyFans are not up my alley, because I'm just not that person by nature. But no means do I want to yuck your yum. I just want you to have informed consent. And unfortunately, I think at 18 years old, you really don't. And then the followers that are following you, like, why we understand how creepy this is in Hollywood when we talked about like Ashton Kutcher hitting on, Hillary Duff when everyone's waiting for her to turn 18. Like, this stuff is gross. I don't care what anybody says. Yes, they're women. Yes, let them do what they want. Da 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 da. But at a certain degree, you have to wonder. And we've seen things like this before with like Bad Baby, and I think even she's come out and said she was definitely portrayed a certain way and she was told to dress a certain way and act a certain way, which really messed her up at that time. So I can imagine having from the get-go being, put into this limelight. And that's with all, like, we've seen celebrities that's happened to, right? That start from the beginning. A lot of them have had struggles. So I think there's no difference to this. It's just difference because we're seeing influencer. And I think when this all came about, people weren't really on YouTube or thought of YouTube like they do now, right? It was like for fun and for a hobby and doing videos and having fun, not understanding it as a career, where people now are just like growing up being like, I want to be a YouTube content creator or podcaster or host or any of those things, right? So I think at the time, it's just kind of like the first round of kids that got really famous and started making money off of YouTube, and they're just the first round going through that. And I think we're going to see in the coming years how that did affect them and not having informed consent. I mean, we're seeing it with cases like not to keep mentioning it, but Ruby Frankie and all that, and her daughter speaking out, saying, I wasn't informed of having the camera in my face all the time, and that situation in itself was insane. But I even imagine that some are going to come out that didn't really have cameras in their face, saying that, they want more of a private life. So, I mean, we're all living and learning, but I think that when you have a bunch of people suing you and they've won, I think that's maybe an indication to maybe just reevaluate how you're treating those around you. And, like, they can deny these allegations, but obviously there's a bunch of kids that were hurt. And I don't know, man, when so many people come together, I struggle to not believe them when they say that. You watch a Netflix documentary, go and watch it, guys. It's a 3-series docu-series. And it was really eye-opening. Like I said, I originally talked about this in the first episode over a month ago, just kind of saying how I thought it was strange that she was going to the Bop House at 17, especially because the Brand Army website and just kind of what's already out there of her being sold. And again, is she in charge of this? There's some people in the Reddit comments saying, her mom's in charge of all these things and she's not really in charge of all that, but she's making good coin. And, who's managing that money? Is she being taken care of? Because there's not as many laws as there is for child celebrities. And look how long that took, right? Again, things I've talked about several times on the podcast and the show about how, like Honey Boo Boo and those kids all got taken advantage of, and how their parents are mismanaging their money, and and how many times now family vloggers have been caught making a ton of money and their kids don't make anything, and how we're starting to see laws come into place, but they're not really there for kids' protection. And I think that was the biggest thing that was kind of happening. And I can give some grace to the mother, like, kind of blowing up on YouTube and not really understanding more what it's like to go through a professional setting where they were saying that, you generally have people on set that's going to support them and help them through school, like all those kind of things, and set up breaks and food and all that kind of stuff, provide different services when you're a child actor or performer. They're used to that versus the YouTube world where, even content, like little small content creators like myself, having to set this up and do all this, a lot of work. It's a lot different than doing it as a career where there's a production where you just walk in, hit record and walk. I mean, hey, some podcasters and content creators definitely have that, but I don't think everyone is, especially back then, is set up with that. It takes time to build, right? So when they're used to that kind of standard as a adult star actress and actor, I think, that was the stark difference, is having to go to school and fit that in a certain time and then record all night, where, they more are often or not, actors, actresses, performers are used to having that assistant on site and all that kind of thing. So that was kind of missing. And I can have grace that maybe you don't understand that, but be like, okay, I fucked up and I'm not going to do that again, and provide better. Don't put 10 toes down and say you didn't do anything wrong, because I don't think that's true. Okay, so we're going to go through some articles here that I found. I'm going to kind of jump back and forth to some of them. Okay, so let's start with the first one here. So Tiffany Smith net worth suffered a major financial blow after Piper Rockelle's ex-friends filed an abuse lawsuit. That's her. Piper Rockelle's life is cemented on the internet forever. With the new release of Netflix documentary Bad Influence, The Dark Side of Kidfluencing, comes a resurfacing of allegations made against her and her mother, Tiffany Smith. Piper Rockelle started making YouTube videos in 2016. In the years to come, she and her mother, Tiffany, recruited Sophie Fergie, Gavin Magnus, Sawyer Shabino, Sawyer Charbino, Hayden Hayes, Corinne Joy, Jensen Ramirez, Claire Rock Smith, and Simone Harrison to appear in her videos. Tiffany created a business enterprise operating under Piper Rockelle Inc. PRI based on the lucrative deals her daughter and her friends made. In the documentary, several teenagers recounted abuse they experienced while they lived in the same house as Piper and Tiffany. After a majority of the squad left, 11 teenagers sued Rockelle, and her mother filed a lawsuit complaining of exploitation and being frequently subjected to an emotionally, physically, and sometimes sexually abusive environment perpetrated by Piper's mom. They claim that Tiffany Smith inflicted ongoing abuse such as shouting explicit comments, repeatedly touching the plaintiffs inappropriately, and encouraging them to be sexy and sexually aggressive in the videos. Each teenager sued the mother-daughter duo for $2 million, making the lawsuit up to $22 million. The lawsuit was settled for a total of $1.8 million. And this is something that I think bothered me the most when watching these allegations, is the innuendos and the uncomfortability. Again, keeping in mind that she's 17 now, but they were doing this when they were 12, 13 years old. So most of the kids when you're watching this documentary when this all started were 12, 13. It's inappropriate at 16, 17. It's even more appropriate at 12, 13. Some of the things, like, I highly recommend you guys go and watch this docuseries on Netflix. Like I said, I started and I watched the whole thing, and then I wanted to watch it again, just, you know how sometimes you pay attention, don't pay attention, wanted to make sure I was getting the details in and understanding how intense this was. And so I was watching again with my spouse, and I ended up falling asleep because I was exhausted, and he was like, that's a fucked up series, we need to continue watching it, like, what happened, like, she has to be in prison, like, this cannot be okay. And there's just lots of inappropriate. And one thing that I found kind of strange is, I guess people know this, and maybe I'm stupid, and maybe this will make me seem like a bit of a boomer, but I really didn't think that so many relationships online on YouTube's were like situationships where they're just like linked together. And I think it's even weirder that this situation with 12, 13-year-olds, that they were being put together in relationships because it was really what grew the show. Like, what people wanted to see, making content to get the views, not making content because it was authentic. And that's one thing that made me really sad, is that all these, and some of them I'm sure will still go on and are successful, maybe some won't continue doing it, but I believe at all points is that they were very enthusiastic about being creators, and they loved that. And it just made, kind of like with celebrity kid stars, you kind of see the light go out when it's creating for views versus creating how they want to. And I'm sure, of course, there's going to be some of that, right? Like, we all do it at some degree, but it just makes me sad as kids are developing and they're becoming who they're wanting to be or supposed to be like naturally. They're then forming that to what views and what's popular and what someone in their lives is directing them to do. I think with kid actors, when they're doing a certain character, it's a little bit different, I think, than when you're trying to portray this online one that is an influencer that's close to yourself, right? The whole idea of influencers is so that they're more like you, right? More relatable and like everyday kids, but obviously these, you know what I'm saying? So it's kind of shitty, because then all of a sudden now it's like, well, did they just get their whole teenage years taken away in relationships, having to be in certain relationships with people to make views and spending their time doing that? And just, it kind of makes me sad that, that's what their whole teenage life was like, when they just wanted to create and be artists. And I'm sure there's positives, you know, I'm sure they made tons of money, and I'm sure their accounts and their fame, you know, I'm sure that comes with positives too, but it does make you feel a little sad at what cost was that all because one person was a little bit slightly diabolical. And when you look at, allegedly, and when you look at this and you think back, like, I hate to be this, but she's a genius in the sense of, like, it's like the biggest pyramid scheme, because it was just at the time when I think people were just, like they said in the show, just not understanding what YouTube meant. I thought it was just fun videos, everyone doing stuff. Meanwhile, someone's over here just capitalizing on all of this. And, you know, obviously she led on so that they could start their own thing, but really this whole time she's just siphoning money, and not talking about little money, you guys. We're talking like $300,000 to $500,000 a month for YouTube content, like life-changing money, which is like amazing. But at the same time, again, at what worth? And like, they're making so much money. I always wondered, like, could you dial back a little bit so that they can have a normal life too? Like, did they have to be going balls to the walls every single day? Everyone having a channel, everyone like cross promoting. And I'm not saying it's a marketing genius. It sounded like the two of them really understood what was needed at that time. But again, it's like, how much money did you have to make? You know, you're worth millions and millions and millions of dollars, and that will continue over time, depending on what platform, because they have been demonetized, I believe, on YouTube. But, you know, if you wouldn't have gone so intense and those, you know, wouldn't have been so wild, you could have been making money forever. It's just, again, that greed. I always wonder, does it really get to people, right? So, they had a lawsuit, and so what does that mean her worth is now? In estimation, Tiffany Smith's net worth is around $6 million. Moviedelic cites that Tiffany and Piper's combined net worth is estimated to be $10 million, and Celebrity Net Worth reports that Piper's net worth alone is $4 million. According to Los Angeles Times, Piper reportedly made between $4.2 million and $7.5 million a year from her ad deals and monetization from her YouTube channel. After the lawsuit became public, Piper and Tiffany lost brand deals and had losses between $300,000 and $500,000 per month. Piper still continues to make content on TikTok to this day, and because she's a minor, her mom still controls her finances. In a statement, the newspaper Tiffany claimed that the lawsuit was filed because of financial jealousy of a 15-year-old girl. She continued, "I don't care. Make me look like the monster. I'm used to it. They're using me, but they're hurting Piper." Tiffany Smith gave a statement to E! News about the documentary. "This entire ordeal, from baseless accusations to legal chaos to a Netflix reality series, has been the most painful chapter in our lives. And it's been especially devastating for my daughter Piper. After everything she's already endured, she's now being exploited by Netflix under the guise of protecting kids." The matriarch went on to urge viewers to look past the smoke and mirrors of the Netflix documentary. The accusers were, and still are, stage moms pushing their kids into the spotlight. Smith continues, "Most of the kids in the Netflix special are still chasing online fame and fortune, fully supported by their parents. As they admitted in the series, they had originally approached lawyers over money and lost social media followers. Only later did the claims appear." Who's gonna tell her? Who's gonna tell her? Girl, hey, hi. You're probably never gonna see this, but in case you do, I know it's hard when you're so into money and you're so into fame and power that it's hard to understand why anybody would just want to have a creative outlet or trace their dream outside of just making money. I think your daughter had that spark. I'm sure she still does, but now you've turned it into this such a big business, and that pretty much probably your whole life depends on her life being successful. I can't imagine what is said behind closed doors. That's your business, not mine. But the reason why this is happening is because you took advantage. At the onset of what was going on with those kids, you didn't give them informed consent of what was going on in their videos and them being put out there. You didn't talk to their parents. You didn't sit them down and explain what was going on in the money you're making from the beginning. And if I think you did that and included all of them, it's not about the money. I'm sure that was nice for them, but there's something else when you've built your entire dream. Even if you were involved in that, they still had that dream. They still want to do all that. And you guys ruined that for them. You took a lot of time away from them. You took a lot of their hard work and put them out on the spotlight, and then made all these people go against some of them. And for money, right? Because that's why you're upset, because you're losing money. And that's all you care about is money. So everyone else's motive has to be about money, right? Just because that's your motive. These parents are protecting their children. I'm not sure if maybe that's just something that's missing in the equation that you're not getting. I think a lot of them are really sad because this was most of their dreams and it was ruined completely in an environment that you were cultivating, you were in charge of, right? So it's kind of wild to me that you don't see that that's what it is, and you keep going about the money and saying it's a jealous of a 15-year-old girl. I'm so happy for her that she's living her dream, and if she's truly happy and this is the path she wants and she's making killer money. But is everyone really happy in this situation? And is she really being hurt because of this or because of the facts of the matter and the environment? I know that's hard. It must be really hard to hear. because I think at the end of the day, you really think that's what you're doing is helping your daughter. And I'm sure in a lot of ways you have put her in a really good position, but you've also put her in the position to lose all the people around her by the work environment that you created, the chaos that you created, and that completely gaslight around. You know, I'd have so much more respect if you turn around and said, you know what, I got fucking caught up in the sauce. I don't know what's going on. I'm so sorry, and get yourself out of that ego place and hit some humility with, you know, I did take a piece of this. I did do incorrect things. I think a lot of people would have maybe been a little bit more compassionate, myself included, but 10 toes down on it's everybody else's fault and they're just money hungry and dismissing everything else. I don't know, man. Not it for me. Not it for me. So let's continue on here on other things that I found. So an interesting article too, because again, when I originally started talking about this, it was because Amala Ekanobi had been talking about Piper Rockelle and her mother and the exploitation that seemed to happen because of what had happened in the Bob house. And we'll go to that in a second. And I kind of, like I said, talked about that before. But one of the bigger things that I've had a problem with too is like all of the followers that are out there, there's going to be a certain demographic of obviously kids and all that kind of stuff and people that generally want to watch. But a lot of it is going to be creeps, right? We can all agree with that. And so I guess what I'm struggling with is underage girlies, even if it's not sexual, it's going to be taken that way. And I know that's unfortunate and it's a sad fact, but at the same time, it's just to protect them, right? So me personally, scandalous, you want to dress however you want to dress, fine, but posting it all over the internet and your locations and all those things I think is super dangerous. I've talked about that before. That's not just in this situation. I have talked about that in length and how I feel. So I really struggle with this part here, and I'm going to share the article that I found regarding this with you guys here, just a piece of it, and why this bothers me so much. And I just think it's inappropriate. You can call me prude. I don't really fucking care. Okay, so Piper has never publicly expressed this view, and she appears to have taken a couple of jabs at the Netflix docuseries on social media. In one TikTok video, text across reads, "Will you still be my friend if I watch the doc?" Meanwhile, Piper mouths the words, "I don't want to be friends," to Lady Gaga's Bad Romance. In another clip, she mimes scrolling through her comment section with a caption that says, "Seeing how easy it was for you to switch up on me." Despite being underage, former squad members and relatives describe Piper's disturbing switch to more sexual content on her various platforms, which they accuse Smith of orchestrating. After the 2022 lawsuit and the allegations against Smith, YouTube demonetized Piper's channel, directly impacting her stream revenue, which estimated between $300,000 to $500,000 per month. Major brands started pulling out, with Sarah Adams, who advocates for minor safety on social media via her Mom Uncharted platform, stated that Smith has had to diversify Piper's brand and look at other channels to monetize her child. One of those avenues is Snapchat, but there's other more disturbing channels that's facing scrutiny. I'm also aware that Piper is on another website called Brand Army, says Sarah. And Brand Army is often compared to OnlyFans, but it doesn't do nudity. However, Taylor Lorenz, author of Extremely Online, states only on Brand Army you can be as young as 13 to actually create content, but in order for people to subscribe to that content, they have to be at least 18. Do you understand what I'm saying? So only people over 18. This isn't for kids. This means that Brand Army is a website that is allowing adults to subscribe to exclusive content of minors. I don't know how a website justifies this, says Sarah. I don't know how this is legal. Agreed. Snapshots of Piper's Brand Army account shows her sharing sexually suggestive content despite being underage. Piper's step-cousin Claire Rocksmith said, "My heart hurts for Piper seeing her on something like that, and who knows if she even has a decision in being on it at all. The Piper I knew, that's absolutely not what she'd want to do." Claire's sister Reed adds, "I'm kind of concerned seeing the content now, like Piper in bathing suits. I wish I knew what was going on." Why? 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 Do whatever you want when you're 18. Truly. Wait. Why? Why? There's other avenues. TikTok makes tons of money. You could have started another account. Why does everything have to go sexual? Why is there this pipeline? She's going to be 18 And again, do whatever you want, but does this not constitute, at what point do we figure out grooming? Okay. When is that happening? Across the board. This is not just happening to kid influencers. This is happening across the board where parents are running these accounts. It's fucking disturbing and it drives me absolutely insane. Why isn't this woman in jail? Like, it's scary when there's predators out there that are strangers, and it's even scarier when those predators are in the home. And the sad part is that she probably just thinks this is normal, and my heart goes out to her. That's why I don't want to throw any shade to this fucking poor girl, because I feel for her. But that's not all. That's not all. We go. So here's another. So on Reddit, I was pulled up this Bop House's grooming thread, and other people commenting like this. I just watched a video on someone who paid for her membership to see what you get, and it's literally like kiddie porn. Provocative pictures of her underage daughter posing in bikinis with Playboy props and stuff on her bed. The video watched didn't show it, of course, but I 100% believe her. The cops need to be called on this mother. She's literally pimping out her teenage daughter. I'm livid right now. Like, why is she not in jail? Why? I don't know. Maybe I'm probably going to be called a prude. I don't know that I don't love women empowerment, but I just don't see how this is empowering personally. Another Reddit thread here. Picture censored out of respect. She's fully clothed, but very small clothing. Again, this is where it goes back to her being at the Bop House, aka the influencer house full of OnlyFans like Sophie, Rain, and Camila have been collaborating with 17-year-old Piper. This isn't some influencers just stumbling into each other and filming a silly dance. This girl Piper was brought into the Bop House to make content. In literally no other world would it be okay for sexual content creators to invite minors on to promote their own content, and this should be called out and taken more seriously. So this is what I had talked about before, and how I had mentioned in the first episode about this back over a month ago, was like, I understand having younger friends. I remember being older and always, and to this day have younger friends that I mentor and stuff like that. But like I said before, why did we have to do content there? If you wanted to mentor, like, why couldn't you just be at a coffee shop or doing something different? I don't know, like, why do you have to be at that specific house? Because you know that's going to bring attention. And that's just going to bring a bunch of people, which, sorry, this seems like by design, that follow the Bop House into your house. So when you're 17, turning 18, right at that time, you know, it's kind of like Bad Baby when all those people are waiting for her to turn 18 so that she could be on OnlyFans. Again, what's the line? Is it really that date and that time frame? I'm not saying we need to put regulation on it. I'm just saying it kind of grosses me out because I was also very sexualized at a young age. But here's some more comments. This is all Piper has ever known. Her entire childhood has been documented online by her mother, who sexualizes her and her friends at every turn. There was some legal issues a while back with the other kids involved with Piper being sexualized, if I remember correctly. It's incredibly sad and not all Piper's fault because she's a young girl. Her mother and every adult in the Bop House, however, are huge pieces of shit and fully responsible and should be held accountable as such. Same thing, and I've talked about this before, same comment. Unfortunately, yes, similar happened to Danielle Kahn, and there was a whole public dispute between her and her mom, who claimed she was 16, and her dad, who claimed she was 14 at the time that she got famous. Both girls were famous super young, groomed by their mothers, sexualized online, and grew up to start an OnlyFans. Is disgustingly common. And it just keeps going on about how it's just so sad that that they feel like they have to go and do these things. And again, I'm not sure what the reasonings are, and I'm not there. It just, again, where's all of her money? So when she turns 18, is she getting all that money, Tiffany? Are you going to be giving her all that money? Have you put that money aside for her? If she's worth $4 million, is that going to be in her name when she turns 18? And like, to the point, and the Netflix documentary, like, it's scary when that young kids now can make that kind of money. And of course, that's always been on the table, celebrities, but is a lot different now with things like TikTok and YouTube. People blow up way faster and they're making more money than ever. And like, Jesus, that just opens the floodgates for bad, shitty fucking parents to do this stuff. And we've seen it time and time again. So many kids, so many celebrities. And now we're just seeing it with influencer and influencer kids now, and I just really hope for peace for them. I hope that that documentary makes her reflect and look at her behavior, Tiffany, not Piper. And I hope Piper sees that people are just trying to let her know that they care about her and that there's more to life than making money and content. And I think that's what they're all just trying to say is like, this was uncomfortable for them, and you're saying that it didn't happen, and that probably hurts because I'm sure you would want to be heard, right? But I also said understand being trapped under your mom and not really knowing what to do. So I hope as an adult you make your money, get the fuck out and get away and decide what's best for you. And I hope that you rekindle your past friendships, because friends and community means so much. It's so much more than followers and likes and content. So I really wish the best for everybody in this. I feel for the kids that were so passionate about creating and being online creators and content creators and now just don't want to do it anymore because of this experience. It makes me really sad, and I really hope that they get apologized to one day, or they refine that spark one day. But it looks like everyone is moving on from it and is going to heal one way or the other. And I just thought it was super fucked up. And I think it's really important, especially if your kids are getting online and they want to be influencers, which I know a lot of kids want to be these days and ages. I think you should pay attention to this just to make sure you protect yourself, because there's some pretty fucked up things that went on there that blew my mind personally. So make sure to go watch that documentary if you have time, guys. I think it's 3 parts. It's on Netflix. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you want me to dive deeper into this, you want me to keep going, I think I could still keep going for another half an hour, but I'm going to leave it at that. Thank you guys so much for being around, and I'll see you in the next episode. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Until next time, bye.